Hello and welcome to We Will Talk About It, the Supernatural Rewatch podcast where we watch one episode every week, spoiler free. I'm Megan.
I'm Kat.
And this week we are watching Season 1, Episode 14, Nightmare. So this is another Sarah Gamble and Rael Tucker episode. So they wrote this one. Yeah, so for you guys the week we're recording this, Faith comes out, which is another of their episodes. So yeah, I'm liking that I'm starting to see patterns of the kind of episodes
and the
that writers
and the arcs that we're taking.
That the kind of episodes that different writers write.
This is a good episode. I completely forgot about this episode existing. I mean, I'm going to say this about nearly every episode.
Yeah, I was going to say
like most of the season, like I don't remember this happening. What?
Ooh. We should add that to the drinking game. Every time you say, I've forgotten a plot point, I'd forgotten this episode existed, I forgot this happened.
Oh, man, people's kidneys. I don't know how many kidneys can I afford, Megan?
Well,
not many.
I mean, alcohol affects the liver more than the kidneys, but
true. I mean, vital organ, whatever. I don't have vital organ replacement money, okay?
Well, I mean, I feel like this is a participate at your own risk kind of situation.
Oh, yeah, this is 18s only. Or whatever country legal limit,
yes,
wherever you're listening, because in Australia it's 18, America's 21. Yep, cool, all right. But yeah, well, look, I did forget about this episode, but it's a good episode.
It is a good episode, directed by Phil Segresha, and yeah, I don't have any preamble.
No, I don't have any
preamble.
Week. Oh, I do have some. We will talk about it. I feel it's not CGI. Swarm is back, but there is some CGI. Oh boy, it has not aged well. We will talk about it. We will talk about it, but I'm just pre-warning that if Kat gets real loud, you know why. It's about the questionable CGI. So that's my preamble.
All right, well.
Let's get into it.
So we open on a old car drives into a garage. Music is playing. We see a man, he turns around, he sees his garage door closing and he sort of looks confused, like he didn't close the door.
Didn't hear the beeper.
And then his car door locks, the radio comes on because the car's turned back on.
All the doors lock. It's like very much chung chung chung.
Yeah. And we can sort of straight away tell that there's something, ooky spooky supernatural happening.
Exactly what I wrote. Oh my gosh, you read my notes.
And he starts to suffocate from the carbon monoxide because it's an older car. And so he's trying to block up the vents with his jacket. He's trying to smash the window. He's crying out for help.
Yep, no one's hearing him.
And he dies.
Yeah. Quick, I know we're only like a minute into this, but straight up, I don't know if you've seen on the internet, and I'm sure people on the internet can tell me. Apparently, if you take off like the passenger like headrest, like when you can pull it out of the socket, it's got two prongs, and the reason why they're so long is so they can actually smash the glass.
Oh, that's clever.
I did not know this. Apparently it's a safety feature. Like if you're ever trapped in a car and you can't get the windows down for whatever reason, you take the headrest off and bang. So, I mean, I literally wrote, I'm like, my second note is I'd 100% take off the top of the seat and break a damn window.
Yeah. Well, we're bringing you some helpful information should you ever get attacked by a paranormal force.
Yeah, via the, death by carbon dioxide poisoning or... I feel like Mythbusters did a thing on it. Okay. Don't quote me, but yeah, I remember.
I will quote you because that's the point of a podcast, and then you can do a clarification corner later.
Dang it! Well, someone will pull me up, but I'm pretty sure that's the reason why they're so long.
Yeah, I never thought about that. But as we get to the end of this sort of scene and this man passing away, it sort of shifts and changes, and we realize that it's Sam, and he's having a nightmare of this man dying.
Yeah.
And he wakes up, he gets up, he's yelling for Dean, like, we have to go.
Spooked.
We have to go now, because we can sort of tell, and Sam can kind of tell, that this is very similar to the visions that he's had previously in home.
Yep.
And so he gets Dean up, he gets them on the road. He saw the license plate of the car, and so he's calling, pretending to be a police officer, saying that he's in pursuit of this car so he can find out who owns it.
Yeah.
And at first Dean's very like, look, this isn't going to check out, it's fine, like, don't worry.
You just had one of those vivid dreams.
Yeah, this happens to everyone. But then the license does check out, and it does belong to a real person, and that lives in Saginaw in Michigan.
Yeah.
And it belongs to a man called Jim Miller. So Dean steps on the gas. to try and make it, because Sam feels like surely he's going to be able to get there in time.
Yeah.
Just like with Home, you know, he's going to be able to save this man before he dies. And he's convinced that something supernatural is happening because of what he saw and how he saw it.
And how vivid it was and how strong it was. So.
But they get there and it's too late. Jim has already died.
Which I might point out, let's say it's like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, there's a lot of neighbours just all out just watching. I mean, sure, but also...
Yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily be that much of a sticky beak.
No, I would not be. Like, if something like this happened to let's say my neighbour across the road, I'm going to do the creepy thing and, you know, maybe look through the window.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be out there in my dressing gown and my rollers.
No.
I mean, I would never wear rollers for one. Dressing gown, yes. Rollers, no. In my messy, you know, fallen apart bun going, oh, can you believe?
Yeah.
Mr. Miller killed himself. Who would have thought?
Yeah. Which is basically what happened. So they are talking to the neighbours, nosy neighbours. They're saying the Miller family saw them at church every Sunday. They seemed completely normal, you know.
Yeah.
You never know what happens
Nice
behind.
house.
Nice house, you know.
Yep.
And they sort of say, you never know what happens behind closed doors.
Correct.
But the story was that he'd taken his own life.
Yeah.
Sam thinks that it's something supernatural. He doesn't understand why he's had this vision.
And why it's so important and why, like, he's very much beating himself up at the point because he feels like if Dean maybe, you know, really pushed the Impala, they could have saved him. But as Dean was saying to Sam, like, you know, I don't think there's something supernatural. It's just your dreams. And for whatever reason, this is just your dreams playing on some kind of emotional background. Like, it's nothing supernatural here. I just think it's a one-off kind of occurrence. And Sam is definitely not on that path.
No, Sam's definitely very concerned. And so the next day they rock up at the Miller's house.
The gumption, the gall.
The gumption and the gall.
The gumption and the gall.
Sam's like, this is a low even for us.
Yeah, and then when you see them at the front door, oh, man. I forgot about this plot point.
Drank.
At this point, you should be drank.
So they've dressed as priests.
Yes. Hence why I couldn't say it. I'm like, you say it, Megan. I can't say it because I love that they're fathers. And it's like, you both look like you just stopped, like that you bowled over some priests to steal their, you know, attire because you do not look like priests.
Yeah. So they first meet the brother of Mr. Miller who has died.
Yep.
And then we meet Mrs. Miller.
For those playing at home, it is the one, the only Aunt Zelda.
Aunt Zelda from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh my God. Again, I did not remember her being in this and she looks mighty fine.
Yeah, so it's Zelda Spellman played Aunt Zelda in the 90s Sabrina the Teenage Witch. We should point out because it's now the new series on Netflix as well.
Not the Chilling Adventures. This is the good one.
This
the one
is
with the
talking
OG. The one with the talking Salem.
Yes.
The sassy I just forgot his name. I just said it. Salem. There we go. I was like, what? Sassy Salem. There we go. You got to cut that bit out because I'm like, what? I just said it. What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
not the scary one.
Beth Broderick, who played Zelda Spellman in the original series, the one with Melissa Joan Hart, the one that I definitely grew up with.
Yep. Oh, and Harvey. Wasn't he a spunk?
He was absolutely an early crush of mine.
Oh, same.
But I remember watching this when I was 17 and Sabrina had finished up maybe 3 or 4 years before. It finished in like 2001 or something like that. But this was the first time that this had happened to me where someone from something that was so beloved, that was so innocent, like the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch was the most G-rated, innocent show. Like there was no real drama that ever happened in the show. There was no real plot.
It was just purely Sabrina trying to get her witch's license, which I just love that. Like there is a whole like a whole other realm that just deals with you can be a witch, but you can't practice being a witch because you need a license. It's like what? It's like again, it's this the tongue in cheek of well, she's 16, she could get her license, but it's a witch's license.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So very, very innocent. And so this was the
innocent.
first time that I had experienced someone who had been in something that I had watched that was such an innocent show than coming onto something that and playing like a serious role. And it was very like a bit of a like death of childhood moment for me.
Definitely a hard turn.
Because, and we'll talk about Beth's performance in this. She does an amazing, incredible job. She's obviously an incredible actress to, you know, obviously do the comedy of Sabrina and then to come and do this.
Oh, yeah.
And it is sort of, for me, the start. I don't know how much of this is like, we've sort of talked about, we had the cigarette smoking man, we've had Amy Acker on the show already.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of it is kind of stunt casting where they're casting someone knowing people are going to be like, I know later on Supernatural gets quite good at stunt casting. They do a lot of fun things. But yeah, this one definitely had a moment for me of like,
for season 1 too, we've had a few.
Yeah, we've had quite a few already. Like I feel like they kind of know what they're doing.
Which is
good. So
this
one was a massive one for me. Sam and Dean speak to her about the loss of her husband.
I just love that Sam is doing all the work and Dean's just eyeing off the like cocktail weenies.
Oh, I have a fun story about that.
Yes.
So Jensen told a story that, because obviously in TV shows and in movies, there's food that's meant to be eaten, that's designed to be eaten because the actor is expected to consume it during the scene.
Yep.
And there's food that's there that's not like bad, but isn't designed to be consumed. Like it's not, you know, it's real food, but it's not, you shouldn't eat it.
Yeah, it may make you unwell.
And he in this scene thought it would be really funny because he's a priest and he's meant to be very like formal, that it would be really funny for him to be like eating these cocktail weenies. Like he thought that was a really Dean thing to do. Which it is. But those cocktail weenies were not intended to be consumed. Like that was his idea. And he was like scarfing them down, and then afterwards went up to the props person and was like, should I have eaten them? And they're like, oh, it'll be fine. But no, we didn't actually make those for you to eat. Like they were meant to be
method acting at its finest.
I don't think this would be counted as method acting.
I mean, he would. Jensen's my bro. He gets it.
I don't think he'd consider it method acting.
No,
either.
but I do. But he's very true, because when he Sam's obviously engaging with Beth about what's just happened and trying to get some more information, and here's Dean just like being a little squirrel stuffing in these weenies, and I'm just like, Dean, priests don't do that.
Yeah,
and no one cooks him for it.
He has realized that this fed into, for the rest of the series, and this is not really a spoiler, Dean and food being kind of this joke thing, and he's like, it's kind of my fault because of that time that I ate cocktail weenies that I shouldn't have eaten. Yeah. And he's like, and you know, eating food on camera is not the same as eating food in the real world, because you do have to eat the same food over and over and over and over and over again as each time you do a take. Yeah. So it's not very fun.
No.
Compared to what it's like in the real world.
One of my notes is literally like Dean just being the most moxie priest ever by eating some cocktail weenies. Yeah. And not paying attention. Like he's there, but I think because he has just disregarded the entire process of, this is just Sam just needs to get past this point. He's going through his thing. Nothing will come of it, and then we can leave. Yeah. And so Dean stays and speaks to Alice Miller, speaks to the mum, and then Sam goes and speaks to Max Miller, which is the son who's the person who actually found his father. Yeah. And Sam is talking to Max and sort of has this connection with him, or feels this connection to him. Max comes across as being someone who's maybe a little troubled. You know, you can't really tell, though, if it's because of what he's experienced, the fact that he found his father and that he killed himself, or, you know, if there's something else going on. Yeah. But you definitely get this sense that Max is not all 100%. Yeah. And again, we as the audience chalk it up to him. Obviously, no one wants to find their dad that way. Yeah. Dean sneaks off upstairs to check to see if it's a poltergeist or if it's a ghost. They've had a bit of an upgrade of their equipment, and I want to know if Dean built this thing, because it's an infrared thermal scanner and it's got lasers and it's got like a camera built in. I literally wrote Dean's upgrade his EMF reader. Like that was just because it came up and it's got like lasers beaming everywhere like a damn light show at a rave. I was like, what the fuck is this? It's crazy. And I love the idea that Dean built it, because it really adds again to this idea that like Sam is book smart and Dean is like the dummy. Street smart. Yeah. And he's obviously, he knows some things. Yeah. He's got moxie. Like he's not necessarily book smart,
but he is definitely wily and he's got moxie and he's clever and he's got those street smarts.
Yeah, 100%.
They drive off. Dean's like, I didn't find anything. There's no cold spots. There's nothing.
The house is fine. Beth has confirmed the house is like perfect.
Yeah. You know, there's no real signs of anything. They do some more research. You know, there's no bingo card again for problematic plot points. There's no Indian burial grounds. There's no, you know, there's no history of death in the house. Like, it's a completely peaceful location.
Yeah, and only that they've only, when they say recent, they haven't been there their entire family life, but they've been there for a significant amount of time that nothing prior to this event had happened.
Yeah. As they're having this discussion about, like, there's really nothing here, we don't know what's going on, Sam has another vision, but this time he's awake, and it sort of comes on like a headache.
More like a migraine, like a hardcore migraine ripping out his face. And
And so we see the brother, Roger Miller. He is coming home to his apartment. He's getting a beer. He's walking around, and we see the window
just open.
And so he sort of looks. He turns around and closes it. He goes to do something else. You get the sense that there's a presence in the house. You see some shadows,
almost from our angle. We are the presence.
Yes. Yeah, so it feels the point of view of
the point of view. Thank you.
Is really interesting with how they're filming it. Phil Sagrisha, thank you for some very interesting.
Yeah, because it feels like we
choices.
are the unseen, unknown presence.
Yep. The window opens again. He closes it and bolts it. It unbolts and flings open. Honestly, why are you not running out of the house at this point? If I saw a window open of its own accord, I'm leaving the house.
Yeah.
I'm exiting.
You're not going to do any of those. Like I said, and I'll say it again, and I will continue to say it while we're on this podcast. If this shit's happening to you in real life, get the fuck out.
Yeah, leave.
Just grab your keys, grab your wallet, grab your belongings, grab like the belongings you can. Maybe your pets. Don't leave your pets there.
No.
Fuck out. Like just
leave.
Fuck off. Just like 100% put your house up for sale. I know, hand the keys back at the real estate and be like,
I'm never coming back here again.
I'm done because shit's going to go down.
And what you definitely wouldn't do is stick your head under the clearly haunted window.
Like a guillotine.
Like a guillotine. Firstly, windows can't do this. Windows can't.
I mean, as I'm staring at your window, I'm like, wait, no, your window definitely could not. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to get a good old fuck off bruise on my neck.
Yeah, like my windows have, because it's a newer house, they've got a metal frame.
Yes.
And I've definitely slammed my finger in our door downstairs.
Ouch.
Which almost took my nail off, but it didn't take my finger off.
Yeah, you didn't die.
Wooden. This is a wooden window.
Some force.
How much force?
I feel this is, again, the whole point of it is to be building up into there's a unnatural force.
Yes.
It's not just the wind. Also, Roger is just like so blasé about everything. He's just like, it's just the wind.
Yeah.
Clearly that's opening and unbolting my windows.
And it's a sash window, so it like goes up. It doesn't go to the side or anything. Like,
yeah. It's just, if I saw it, I'm like, that's interesting. I'll close it. And if it opened up like for the second time, I'd be like,
goodbye.
Goodbye. I'm changing my name, going overseas, change my name, Anastasia Beavenhausen. I'm out. Pieces.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely
no thanks.
not. So he puts his head inside the window.
Opening.
Jesus. And it decapitates him which I am not sure is physically possible.
Look, I don't think it is, but I'm going to chalk it up, Kat coming in with some science.
Uh-oh.
I know, right? Also known as witchcraft. I feel like it's the unknown force. Like it's the whatever vengeful, angry. You feel like it's angry. Like when you're, especially this vision, you definitely get a sense that it's a targeted attack, not just a random killing. And I feel like there's a lot of force and a lot of anger pushing down, turning this seemingly innocent window into a guillotine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure with enough. I mean, okay, no, I don't think with enough force.
No. Again, hence why I said unnatural. Like normal force, no.
Yeah.
Nay. Real force, yeah. I mean, unnatural force, yeah. Okay.
Maybe? Question mark?
Question mark, exactly. I'm not going to say, tell us,
I
guys.
will say, Sarah, if you're listening, and Rael, if you're listening, this is a really great kill.
Yeah,
I give you guys 10 out of 10 for the kills in this episode.
Oh, yeah, they
you
are
always
on
want
point.
good kills in a horror movie or a horror show, and you really nailed it with the kills. They're just really, this one in particular is, I think, impossible.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to give you the points.
Oh, yeah. Of
decapitation, window,
blood everywhere.
love it.
Yeah. Like, it's a performance.
Yeah.
I'm here for a performance.
I love it.
I love science and, look, I'm, again, real world, no. Unnatural, ghosty beings, sure.
So Sam comes out of the vision. They drive over. They find where Roger lives. They drive over. They try to talk to him. He's
a
already
meanie.
He's already indicated that for him, faith is not a part of his life.
No.
And so he thinks basically, and so he's like, "What are you guys, missionaries?" And he thinks that they're still just trying to bring him around to the idea of, that there's a purpose for everything, including his brother's death. And so he's not very interested in that conversation.
The one time the priest thing didn't work out.
Yeah. And so they're running up the fire escape to try and get to him in time. They don't make it in time, and he gets decapitated by the window, which again, Sarah, Rael, great kill. Love the creativity.
Science-wise, no.
Science-wise, I don't think so. I do love this moment. Another Moxie Dean moment. He immediately is wipe your fingerprints. I'm like, yes, thank you, Dean. He's like, wipe your prints because we've got to get out of here because there's a decapitated body and we don't want any of that business until we find out what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, Dean has realized
something
real is happening. Somehow Sam is connected to this family and to what's happening. But they just don't know what the cause of it is.
Yeah.
So they go back to speak to Max, and it's kind of an uncomfortable conversation.
Very uncomfortable.
Max is very recalcitrant about talking about his childhood in particular. He's not very open.
He's very cagey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Putting it in plain speak, he's very cagey. He's not very forthcoming with details, and it's uncomfortable. It's great acting because you feel uncomfortable. You're like, I don't want to be in this. This is hard to watch, and that's the point of it.
Yeah, exactly. But what we learn from this is that his uncle Roger used to live next door when they were kids.
Yeah,
and they all lived together, and so they decide to go to the childhood home.
Yeah,
and this is when things take an even darker turn.
They sure do.
And I can't believe I'm saying this for the second time in season 1, but in the show notes for this episode, I will put the links that Casefile compiled for resources for domestic and family abuse, and all of those sorts of things for a variety of different countries around the world. If the situation that Max found himself in his childhood or the present day, was it all something that is your experience or has been your experience? So just because we're about to head into much darker territory very quickly.
This is not just us, trying to work out how a window can guillotine someone. This is really some real heavy shit.
Yes, this is a pretty dark episode.
Oh, so it really is.
They speak to the old neighbour and he reveals that Max was beaten quite badly by his father and his uncle as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
His dad was a mean drunk.
Yeah.
And that the uncle was even worse.
Yeah.
He said they broke his arm at least twice that he knows of. But worst of all was the stepmother. And so this is where we get the reveal that Alice, aka Zelda, is...
Oh, wait, I called her Beth.
In your notes.
Yeah. Whoops.
It's okay. So Alice/Zelda/Beth, she was the worst of them all. That she just did nothing. She was just standing. She just stood around, checked out, and the neighbor called the police quite a few times, but unfortunately nothing could be done about the situation.
Yeah, and then they moved away.
And eventually they moved away, which is just
a lot to take in. Like when I was watching this episode, probably like the same with you, Megan, you're like, well, obviously Max is definitely involved now. And it explains how both, his dad and his uncle died and why it wasn't a kind death.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm like, kind of deserved because clearly, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about deserved and how all of that is as we get into the remainder of the episode.
It's not great. You kind of... they also now realize, like, shit, this is obviously... Now Max is involved somehow. How? Question mark.
Yeah. So as they're talking to the neighbor, Sam starts to have another vision, and Dean kind of rushes him away. So we get this vision. This is where we do get the reveal that Max is the one. He has powers. He has telekinesis.
That's the word.
And so he can move things with his mind.
Yep.
And so he's talking to his stepmom. He's talking to Alice and saying that you never did anything. You never tried to stop them. And he makes a knife. And this, I think, is really good CGI.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
He makes the knife rise up from the counter because she's in the kitchen. She's making food. And it like zooms right in just to her eyeball.
Oh, that freaked me out.
And it's so scary, and it's so close to her eye.
Like the tip of the knife.
And you can see like the tears coming down her face. Like it's really, really, this CGI is incredibly well done. Like it looks really scary.
Yeah.
And the knife sort of pulls out again and then stabs her in the eye and kills her. And so this is the vision that Sam has. And so Sam is like, we have to go. We have to stop this. Like Sam throughout this episode feels like he can do something a bit. Like he's getting these visions for a reason. Like so he can stop this from happening. But obviously when they burst in this time, they do actually stop it from happening. But I love how awkward this is. Because we don't quite get to the point of hit the knife off of the counter.
It's just Max being very angry talking to Alice, and then they just bust in without their like priest clothes, and Alice is very like, hello fathers, and it's very
awkward, and it's very, I think, very real to what would actually happen if someone just burst into your house and you're like, oh, we did stop this thing, but now what do we do?
Yeah.
And before they've come into the house, Sam and Dean have had a conversation. Dean sees things very black and white, that Max is the bad guy. He has killed people regardless of what happened to in his childhood.
Yep.
And so we have to stop him.
Yep.
And for Dean, that means kill him. And Sam's like, no, we're not killers. That's not what we do.
We're hunters, not killers.
And so Sam disagrees, but Dean still says, well, I'm still taking a gun into the house.
Always bring a gun to a knife fight?
Yes. I mean, sure. That's not the saying, but
isn't it?
No, it says what's the saying? Oh, never bring a knife to a gunfight.
Oh, I did the other way around.
Yeah.
I mean, relevant.
So Sam convinces Max that they just need to talk and just come outside, like
chill out.
But as they're leaving, Max sees that Dean has a gun.
Yeah.
And he realizes there's no way they're priests. He slams the door. He makes the door slam. He makes all the windows slam. And he's like, no one's leaving. Like, this isn't, nobody's going anywhere. Sam eventually convinces Max to let Dean and Alice go upstairs because he's thrown Alice across the room and she's slammed into a kitchen bench. And so she's wounded. And so Sam's like, just let me talk to you. I think I'm here to help you. I'm having visions about you.
As he's spinning the knife on the coffee table, like a lamp stand, whatever.
And so Max is talking about getting his powers, that he got them about 6 months ago. He also tells Sam that the beatings didn't stop. You know, Sam is like, I'm really sorry for what happened to you when you were a child. And he's like, what do you mean when I was a child? Try last week. And he lifts his shirt up.
God.
And, you know, he's got bruises all over. He's like, they just stopped hitting me where you could see.
Yeah.
Which is
devastating.
Just devastating. And it is interesting. I think they cast Max really well because they cast an actor who's a bit more slight in frame and figure. Like, he could just be a normal sized man.
Yeah.
But next to Jared and Jensen, he looks short, but like it does seem smaller and he sort of acts smaller. And so you can sort of understand sort of how and why this is a grown person who doesn't feel like he could fight back physically.
Especially against when you see the actors who played his father and uncle, quite burly men.
Yeah, definitely very kind of not domineering, but like dominating presences. Oh yeah, they're much bigger.
Yeah.
But as they're talking and he's explaining how he got these powers, and Sam's sort of saying he's not sure how he's connected.
Dude, I also like how Sam's trying to. I think is where we're going to go. Sam's like, how did it all start? Like asking the hard hitting questions.
Yeah. And Sam, this is what Sam's really good at is, you know, that real empathy and compassion for others and that kind of gentleness to his soul.
Unlike Dean. Love Dean. But he's coming in, he's literally bringing a gun to a knife fight.
Yeah, exactly. And so Dean has a really different perspective on things. And he's saying that his dad would get drunk, talk about his mum and how he died. Like, he would blame me for her death. She died because, and Sam's like, why would he blame you? And just the framing and the music and everything in this scene
and the
is
way
like
that, and the actor,
building the tension of it, and it's so good. And
the look he gives to Sam.
Yeah. It's just, and Sam's like, well, why would you think? I said, well, she died in my nursery. And you can see Sam's sort of this dawning realization. He's like, she died in my nursery, and she'd get drunk and say that she died in some crazy way. Like, she died.
Like, flung to the ceiling.
She died pinned to the ceiling on fire when I was 6 months old. And just Sam's face, Jared Padalecki does a great job of this, like the realization of like, holy shit, that's the same way my mum died. Like, this is why I'm connected to you.
Yeah.
So incredible scene on all parts. Props to literally everybody who got involved, because it's such a good scene. The reveal is so good of like,
there's not just one.
There's not just one, and this is the connection. You know, that's why Sam is seeing this. That's why he's seeing it from Max's perspective. Just so
it's a great scene.
So much. But he's almost convinced Max that this is not the way. And this is sort of to the point you were saying of like, well, maybe they deserved to die.
Yeah.
But at what cost to Max?
Exactly.
And his like ability to move on, or his, at what cost to his mental health.
Oh, yeah. And like, that's why I'm like, they deserved it. But it's a two-sided coin argument of someone who does something so despicable should feel pain, but at what cost of the victim / perpetrators? Like,
yeah, and Sam is trying to convince Max that killing his stepmother won't end anything and won't stop anything.
No,
it
won't stop the pain.
Heal. It won't heal him in any way. And
it seems like it's working.
It seems like it's working, and at the last minute, Max changes his mind and he forces Sam into a cupboard, closes the door, and pushes a
hutch duchess thing.
Yeah, like
bookcase thing,
sort of thing across, and you very notably you see in particular the door handle comes off.
Yeah.
So there's no way that Sam can get out, and so he goes upstairs, and all of this happens very quickly. But he goes upstairs, he flings Dean across the room.
Like a rag doll.
Yeah, like a rag doll. He's obviously very powerful, and Sam even says that, like, your powers are much further on than mine. My ability to have visions is all I have. And he goes to, and this is, I assume, the CGI you want to talk about.
Yes.
Which is the gun moving on its own.
Yeah, look, it was a bit... The gun looks like, when people order a cake and they want it to look like something?
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like a cake, but you're like, yeah, sure, that's an Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
This.
Yeah.
It looks very cakey.
Yes.
It looks like it is a cake.
Mm-hmm.
It's... Oh, I was laughing so much.
Yeah, it's...
In a scene that's not meant to be about laughing, I'm just like, Jesus Christ. And again, I understand, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. When this show came out in 2006 for us in Australia, obviously 2005 for people in America, TVs were smaller, the definition wasn't as high, blah, 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 blah. But man, watching it on my Samsung TV, just like big old screen, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And even Joel was like, oh shit, that's really bad CGI. Like, oh damn.
It definitely doesn't hold up.
No. Look, storyline, it doesn't hold up either because obviously things, but the CGI just there. It's not that, look, nothing will ever be as bad as that horrible CGI swarm.
No.
But the floating of the gun, it felt very like almost comical because it was kind of like bopping up and down. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, it's not great CGI, but he goes to kill Alice. Dean says, you'll have to go through me first.
Oh,
and
man.
Max does, and he shoots Dean in the head.
Oh, it was graphic. And then we get the reveal.
And then we get another reveal. It's just reveal after reveal in this episode.
You know what I mean? You know what the reveal next is like, Sam is really a broom. Like, it's very much like there's so many, like, it's like, is it a Russian nesting doll where you pull? Yep, okay, cool. I got that right. Yeah, go me. Go me.
Yeah, so it is a bit of a rushing nesting doll of reveals. And so we get the reveal that this is another vision that Sam is having. He's in the cupboard and he is so terrified of losing Dean that he moves the cupboard with his mind. And I remember seeing this when I was 17 and being like, whoa, because when I was 17, I had no idea where this show was going. I had no clue what the plots were going to be. I had no clue what the plan was about where any of this was going. And so this was like, oh my God, what's happening next? What's going to happen next? So again, really good work, Sarah.
Showing that obviously when Sam, similar to Max, has a traumatic pending something problem, issues, emotions, or such, C column A, he can tap into a power and use it to his advantage, be it for good or bad. Obviously, Sam's choosing good.
Yeah. And so he gets out of the cupboard, he runs upstairs and he stops Max from killing Dean or killing Alice.
Yeah.
And he tries to convince Max that this isn't the way, that this won't stop anything, that he can help. Like, that's why he's here. That's why he's been brought here, is to help. And Max seems to be coming to understand that, but he says, you're right, that's not the way. And so Max takes his own life and he kills himself.
Turns the gun on himself.
Which is
heartbreaking, devastating.
It's such a dark, this whole episode is pretty dark.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it really doesn't have much brevity in it.
It's a rushing nesting doll in the dark.
Yeah, with so many reveals.
Reveals with darkness.
And Sam, we sort of cut to the police have come. Alice is spinning a yarn. Beth Broderick. This is such a flawless performance of just a woman that's devastated. And it's this really interesting thing of how bad do we feel for this person? Because she's like, I've lost everything.
She's also she's lost her husband. She's lost her brother-in-law. And her, we presume, she's saying son, like she treated him like a son. So...
But, how sorry do you feel for this person who allowed so much abuse, who stayed married to an abusive man, who allowed an abusive uncle into her house? Like, it's such an interesting, because she's giving this such a good performance that you really feel for her, but how worthy is she of that?
Yeah. As emotion? The audience, now that we know what happened, you kind of go, hang on.
Yeah. The police let Sam and Dean go because of the story that she's told that Max came, he had a gun, she doesn't know where he got it from, and there was a fight for the gun, and that's how it ended up with Max being dead. We now cut to Sam and Dean. They're packing up, getting ready to leave the motel that they've been staying in, and Sam reveals that he moved
the cabinet.
At first, Dean thinks that he just meant like he was strong
man.
He's like, you've
working out.
You've got more uppy body strength than I thought. But he's like, no, I moved it with my mind. And Dean is clearly a bit concerned, but he sort of takes the lighthearted route.
Yeah, versus like, oh no.
Yeah. But Sam also says that he is glad to have had their dad,
and the upbringing that they did have.
Because at one point, Max says, do you know what it's like to have your father look at you with such hate? And you can sort of see in that scene that Sam is like, oh, no, actually. And he's like, actually, no. And you can see that he's having a realization that for everything him and John have been through and the disagreements that they have, there hasn't been blame for Mary's death. And I just think that's really interesting that Sam, and I think that a lot of people maybe can relate to that. It's like you have a rough childhood, but you can still see the grace, as Sam says, like a little more tequila, a little less, archery practice, and this could have been our childhood. That grief and trauma messes everyone up.
Yep.
And there's no telling what the path is going to be, and what can feel like a really messed up path, which is being the children of hunters, might actually have been what saved them.
Yeah,
and
100%.
saved their dad. So,
and I think Sam obviously has a newfound appreciation for their father, for John, and it's good because for a lot of this season that we've seen, Sam is really annoyed. Like, he's really annoyed with his father. And I think this was a humbling moment for him to realize, like, Dad could have easily taken his frustrations, his trauma, his everything out on me, but he didn't.
Yeah, or at least in the way that Max experienced it. So I'm not letting John completely off the hook. We will talk about it. But
yeah. But in this moment, he's realizing that he could have had Max's life, and he didn't really.
No, and so I think that's very interesting as well, and that's a perspective that I think people can relate to
100%.
who've had tough childhoods to sort of still feel like, there but for the grace of God go I. Like, I still had something that kept me
on the straight
on the right path.
Yeah,
ultimately. And the episode ends. Dean very, very seriously tells Sam that he knows what we need to do. I know where we need to go with your premonitions. And Sam's like, where? And he's like, Vegas.
So good.
But I really like this brevity. You can tell, once again, Dean being the big brother, he's trying not to let Sam be scared.
Yep.
He's trying to add that brevity and that humor, because as he's going to turn out the lights of the motel at the end of the episode, you can see his concern, worry on his face. So I really appreciate, again, Jensen, 10 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
Great kind of acting and telling that story of like, he's clearly been putting on a face and being brave for Sam, but he is very worried about what's going on, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
When your brother's like, oh no, I moved something with my mind. You're like, okay.
Okay. I'm not going to go call some professionals.
Yeah. I mean, we are the professionals in this situation.
Oh yeah, we really are.
And that's it. That's the end of the episode.
It is the end of the episode.
Well, thank you so much for listening, everyone. As always, go follow us on Instagram. We will talk about it pod. Follow us on Twitter. We will talk pod. You can email us at wewilltalkaboutitpod@gmail.com. All of our show notes, including some resources if the domestic violence or
family abuse
or the suicide ideation in this episode was something that you felt a kinship with or relation to, those will be on our website at wewilltalkaboutit.com. Share with a friend if you think that they will like, or a work colleague if you think that they would like this podcast. Leave a 5-star rating, please, on iTunes.
Please.
It's how people can find us.
Yes.
But in the meantime,
stay safe and go watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch, / the 90s version.
Bye, guys.
Bye.